The water hit me like a slap from an old lover, cold, unforgiving, and pulling me under before I could even scream. Eleanor's voice cut through the chlorine haze, sharp as a lifeline. "Elena. Grab my hand, I've got you." In that instant, as her fingers locked around mine and yanked me back to the surface, I knew I'd never look at her the same way again, straight girl or not. I never thought a semester abroad in Barcelona would unravel me like this. Back home in Seattle, life was a predictable drizzle, coffee runs, indie band gigs, and scrolling through Grindr profiles that never quite clicked. I was Elena Reyes, 22, art history major, the girl who painted murals in her dorm room and whispered crushes to her cat. Lesbian. Sure, I'd known that since high school, when I kissed Sarah Jenkins behind the bleachers and felt the world tilt. But love. Real, gut-wrenching love. That was for rom-coms, not for someone like me who armored herself in sarcasm and sketchbooks. Then came Eleanor Hayes. She was the straightest arrow in our study abroad group, blonde, bubbly, with a laugh that echoed like church bells and a boyfriend back in Boston named Chad, who sounded like every frat boy cliché rolled into one perfect Instagram filter. We met on the first day at the University of Barcelona's orientation, her in a preppy sundress, me in ripped jeans and a band tee. "Hey, roomie," she'd said, thrusting a gelato cone at me like it was a peace offering. Our shared apartment in the Gracia neighborhood became a crash pad for late-night paella feasts and debates over gaudy architecture versus my abstract graffiti tags. Eleanor was studying environmental science, always dragging me to protests against coastal oil spills or beach cleanups along the Costa Brava. "Come on, Elena, the Mediterranean's dying, don't you care?" she'd plead, her blue eyes wide with that earnest fire that made my stomach flip. I'd roll my eyes, but I'd go. Because how do you say no to someone who sees the world's broken pieces and wants to glue them back with her bare hands? Our friendship bloomed fast, like bougainvillea spilling over cracked stucco walls. Morning started with her blasting Taylor Swift while she braided my unruly curls, afternoons melted into siestas on our tiny balcony, sharing stories of exes, hers a parade of Chad-like bros, mine a string of ghosting baristas. "You're too good for them," she'd say, punching my arm. "Someday, some girl's gonna see that spark in you." I'd laugh it off, but inside, her words lodged like thorns, because the girl I wanted to see it was her. The campus pool was Eleanor's idea, of course. Swimming lessons, she declared one sweltering July afternoon, after I'd confessed, half drunk on sangria, that I'd never learned to swim. Growing up in a landlocked suburb outside Seattle, pools were for laps and longing glances at the lifeguards. "No way," I'd protested, heat flushing my cheeks. "Water's not my thing. I'll drown like a rat in vermicelli." But Eleanor wouldn't budge. "That's what friends are for, dummy. I'll guide you. Promise." So there we were, on the third-floor deck of the university's outdoor pool, the Barcelona skyline hazy in the distance, Sagrada Familia spires poking like forgotten dreams. The air hummed with cicadas and distant traffic, the water below a deceptive mirror of blue. Eleanor, in her navy bikini that hugged her athletic frame like it was painted on, dove in first with a whoop, surfacing with droplets clinging to her lashes like stars. "Your turn, chicken." I stood at the edge, toes curling over the tile, heart hammering louder than the reggaeton thumping from a nearby speaker. At 5 feet 4 inches, I felt small, exposed in my black one-piece that suddenly seemed too tight, too revealing. "What if I sink?" I muttered, arms crossed over my chest. She swam over, treading water with effortless grace, her blonde waves slicked back. "You won't. I'll be right here. Trust me." Those eyes, God, those eyes, held mine, steady as the Mediterranean on a calm day. I nodded, because trusting Eleanor was as natural as breathing by then. The first plunge was terror incarnate. Legs kicking wildly, arms flailing like I was fighting off ghosts, I went under once, twice, bubbles exploding from my mouth in silent pleas. Panic clawed up my throat, visions of sinking to the mosaic bottom flashing like bad acid. Then her hand, strong, warm, wrapped around my wrist. Breathe, Elena. Float with me. She pulled me up, her body a buoyant anchor, chest rising and falling against mine in the shallow end. We laughed it off, sputtering and splashing, but as the sun dipped lower, something shifted. Her touch lingered a beat too long on my back, guiding my strokes, and I caught her watching me, not with pity, but with a softness that made my pulse stutter. That night, back in our apartment, the betrayal hit like a summer storm. Chad called video, because apparently, 5,000 miles wasn't enough to hide his sleaziness. Eleanor propped her phone on the kitchen counter, oblivious at first, stirring paella while he rambled about his epic weekend. I was sketching at the table, half listening, until his voice dropped, "Babe, about that girl from the party. It was nothing, swear. Just a drunk mistake." The wooden spoon clattered into the pot. Eleanor's face drained of color, her knuckles white on the counter. "What girl?" she whispered, but we both knew. Chad stammered, excuses tumbling like cheap wine. "It meant nothing, Elle, you're the one I love," but she cut him off, voice cracking like fine china. "We're done." She hung up, phone skittering across the tile, and sank to the floor, knees to chest, sobs racking her frame. I dropped my pencil, crossing the room in 2 strides. "Eleanor." She looked up, mascara-streaked eyes raw, and for the first time, I saw the cracks in her Golden Girl armor. The girl who marched for sea turtles and quoted Rumi at dawn was crumbling, and it gutted me. I knelt beside her, pulling her into my arms without thinking, her head on my shoulder, my fingers combing through her hair, whispering, "He's an idiot. You deserve oceans, not this puddle." We stayed like that for hours, the paella burning to ash on the stove, the city lights flickering on outside like hesitant fireflies. She talked, endless, aching words about how Chad had chipped away at her confidence, how she'd ignored the red flags because love was supposed to hurt, right? I listened, heart splintering, because every "I love you" from her lips twisted the knife deeper. She was straight, grieving a straight boy, and here I was, falling harder with every shared breath. The next week blurred into a haze of avoidance and ache. Eleanor threw herself into classes, her protests, anything to outrun the hurt. I'd find her sketches, doodles of waves crashing against cliffs, scattered on the balcony, her way of screaming without sound. I painted too, furious abstracts in reds and blues, trying to exorcise the what-ifs. What if I told her? What if she felt it too, buried under layers of denial and heteronormative bullshit? But betrayal loomed larger than confession. Not hers, mine. For wanting more than friendship, for resenting Chad even in his exile. The conflict crested on a rainy Thursday, the kind where Barcelona's skies weep in sheets, turning cobblestones to mirrors of regret. We'd planned a hike to Park Güell, but the downpour trapped us inside, tension thick as fog. Eleanor paced the living room, phone in hand, rereading old texts from Chad. "Why do I miss him?" she burst out, hurling the device at the couch. "He cheated, Elena. He lied. And I'm the fool who believed it all." "You're not a fool," I said, voice steady despite the storm in my chest. "You're human. Hearts don't come with warning labels." She whirled on me, eyes blazing. "Then why does it feel like betrayal? Like I betrayed myself?" Her words hung, electric, and in that charged silence, I saw it, the mirror of my own turmoil. She wasn't just talking about Chad. I stepped closer, rain drumming the windows like applause. Because sometimes the biggest betrayals are the ones we don't see coming. The ones from people we trust most. My voice trembled, the hook of truth snagging deep. "Like me." She froze, brow furrowing. "What?" The dam broke. Words poured out, halting at first, then a torrent. How her laugh lit up my grayscale world. How teaching me to swim wasn't just lessons, it was her seeing me, really seeing, when I couldn't see myself. How every hug, every late-night whisper, had woven her into my soul until I couldn't untangle the threads. "I'm in love with you, Eleanor. And it's killing me because you're straight, and I'm your idiot friend who's ruined everything." Silence crashed harder than the thunder. Her face cycled through shock, hurt, confusion, like I'd handed her a puzzle with missing pieces. "Elena." She reached for me, then pulled back, as if my confession burned. I don't know what to say. You're my best friend. My rock. But I don't. I can't." Tears welled, mirroring mine. "This changes everything. And I hate that it hurts you." The betrayal settled then, heavy as lead, a mutual wound, self-inflicted. I nodded, throat tight, backing toward my room. "I know. Forget I said it. Friends." The word tasted like ash. She shook her head, voice small. "I can't forget. But I won't lose you." We stood there, rain blurring the world outside, the chasm between us widening even as we clung to its edges. Days bled into weeks, the confession a ghost haunting our apartment's sun-dappled corners. Eleanor and I orbited each other like wary planets, polite breakfasts over tostadas, stilted small talk about lectures on Picasso's Blue Period or her latest petition against plastic waste. But the ease was gone, evaporated like morning mist over the Ramblas. I'd catch her watching me, blue eyes shadowed with unspoken questions, and I'd bury myself in my sketchpad, drawing her silhouette against the sea until my pencils snapped. The university pool became our fragile truce ground. "One more lesson?" she'd asked tentatively one evening, as if swimming could rinse away the awkwardness. I agreed, desperate for any thread connecting us. The water was cooler now, autumn nipping its summer's heels, but her presence warmed it. She'd guide my arms through strokes, her voice a gentle current. "Relax your shoulders, let the water hold you." Our fingers brushed underwater, accidental sparks, and I'd surface gasping, not just from effort. One session, as leaves swirled like confetti from the overhanging oaks, she opened up. "I broke all his stuff," she confessed, floating beside me, her strokes lazy and unhurried. "Chad's. Mailed it back in a box with sand from the beach, said it was all he'd ever amount to." A bitter laugh escaped her, echoing off the tiles. Petty, right? But it felt freeing. "Not petty," I murmured, treading water to face her. "Justified." Our eyes locked, the pool's surface rippling between us like a veil. For a heartbeat, I thought she'd lean in, bridge the gap with something reckless and real. But she looked away, diving under with a splash that stung my pride. Back home, the drama escalated in whispers from our mutual friends. Whispers turned to texts, heard about Chad's side. Says Eleanor was too intense, always protesting. Lies, of course, but they slithered into her doubts like smoke. She'd pace at night, phone glowing as she scrolled his blocked profile, and I'd lie awake in the next room, fists clenched against the sheets. The betrayal wasn't just his anymore, it was the world's, chipping at her resolve, making her question if she was too much for anyone. I tried to armor her with truths. "You're not intense, you're alive," I'd say over café con leche at our corner spot, the scent of fresh churros a flimsy shield against the ache. "The world's just scared of women who demand more." She'd smile, faint and fleeting, squeezing my hand across the table. Platonic, always platonic. But those touches, lingering now, deliberate, stirred the embers I'd tried to smother. The real storm brewed during La Mers Festival, Barcelona's riot of fireworks and giants parading through the streets. We joined the throng in Plaça Sant Jaume, bodies pressed close in the chaos, the air thick with gunpowder and grilled sardines. Eleanor, tipsy on cava, linked her arm through mine, her warmth seeping through my jacket like sunlight. "Remember our first night here?" she shouted over the drums. "You spilled sangria on my dress and blamed the cat." I laughed, the sound foreign in my throat. "Hey, Senor Whiskers needed an alibi." For a moment, it was us again, unscarred, unbreakable. Then the sky erupted in crimson blooms, and she turned to me, face illuminated, eyes searching. "Elena, about what you said." My heart seized. The crowd surged, pushing us closer, her breath mingling with mine. Don't, I whispered, but it was too late. Her lips parted, words forming, apology. Reciprocation, when a voice shattered the spell. Eleanor. Chad. Of all the gin joints, there he was, tanned and tousled, arms slung around a girl half his age, like he'd flown in just to twist the knife. Her face crumpled, color draining faster than the fireworks faded. What the hell are you doing here? He grinned, that smug Boston drawl cutting through the din. Study abroad extension, babe. Missed the vibe. Who's this? His eyes raked over me, dismissive, then back to her. Miss me. The betrayal landed like a gut punch. Eleanor wrenched free from my arm, storming through the crowd, shoulders hunched against the revelry. I chased her, weaving past drunken dancers, until we burst into an alley off Via Laietana, the stone walls slick with rain from an earlier shower. She leaned against a graffiti-tagged door, ironic, my own jagged lines mocking us, and slid down, sobs heaving. He knew, she gasped as I knelt beside her, pulling her close. He timed it. To hurt me. Her fingers dug into my shirt, clinging like I was the only solid thing left. I held her, rocking gently, murmuring nonsense about how fireworks always end but stars come back. The festival roared on, distant and cruel, while we huddled in our private eclipse. That night, back in the apartment, she didn't let go. We curled on the couch, a blanket fort against the world, her head on my lap as I stroked her hair. I pushed him away because he made me feel small, she whispered into the dark. But with you, I feel seen. Big. Alive. Her hand found mine, intertwining fingers, and sleep claimed her like a truce. I didn't sleep. The line we'd towed for months blurred in the lamplight, friendship's edge giving way to something tender, undefined. Was it love? Pity? The romantic in me hoped for the former, the realist braced for heartbreak. But in that quiet, with her breath steady against my thigh, I let myself believe in redemption. Not grand gestures, but these small salvations, a hand in the dark, a shoulder for the storm. As autumn deepened, Barcelona's colors turned, amber leaves carpeting the Izample's boulevards, the sea a moody sapphire under overcast skies. Our pool lessons evolved into rituals, less about strokes and more about surrender. I'd float on my back, her voice anchoring me, eyes on the sky, Elena. It's yours. And it was, endless, like the possibilities flickering between us. But conflict simmered beneath the surface, a betrayal of biology and expectation. Eleanor's ex-friends from the program started side-eyeing us, whispers of roommate drama laced with homophobic barbs. Eleanor's gone full rainbow now, one sneered at a cafe, loud enough for us to hear. She bristled, defending me with a ferocity that left them stammering, but later, alone, she'd deflate. Why does it have to be so hard? Just us? Because the world's built on straight lines, I'd reply, tracing a curve on her palm with my thumb. But we're the arcs that make it beautiful. Humanistic, yeah, preachy, maybe, but it was our mantra, chanted over bottles of Estrella and stacks of tapas. The climax crashed on All Saints' Day, when the city honored its dead with marigold wreaths and candlelit vigils. We wandered the Poblanos cemetery at dusk, paths lined with crypts like silent sentinels, the air heavy with incense and sea salt. Eleanor had been quiet all day, haunted by her grandmother's recent passing back home, a woman who'd taught her to swim in Maine's icy coves, who'd whispered, "Love finds you when you're brave enough to dive." We paused at a weathered mausoleum, her fingers tracing faded inscriptions. "Gran would have liked you," she said softly. She was the one who told me girls could love girls, back when I was too scared to ask. My breath caught, a revelation, small but seismic. "You never said." I touched her elbow, tentative. She turned, eyes glistening in the twilight. Because I didn't want to see it in myself. Not then. Chad was safe, predictable. But you. Her voice fractured. You make me want to jump without looking. The world narrowed to that space between us, candle flames dancing, distant chants like a heartbeat. She stepped closer, hand cupping my cheek, thumb brushing my lip. Time suspended, the pull magnetic, inevitable. Our lips met, soft, exploratory, tasting of salt and unspoken years. It wasn't fireworks, it was the quiet burn of dawn, warm and right. But betrayal's shadow lingered. As we pulled apart, breathless, her phone buzzed, chat again, a voicemail, so you too knew it. You're both freaks now. The word slithered through the speaker, venomous, and she deleted it with trembling fingers. He's wrong, she murmured, forehead to mine. This is us. Real. We walked back through the cemetery hand in hand, the dead watching with benevolent eyes, and for the first time, the future felt less like a grave and more like a garden. Winter crept into Barcelona like a hesitant guest, frosting the Gothic quarter's gargoyles and turning the pool into a steamy sanctuary against the chill. Eleanor and I navigated the newness of us with the caution of explorers charting unclaimed land, kisses stolen in shadowed archways, fingers laced under cafe tables, nights tangled in sheets that smelled of her lavender shampoo and my citrus body wash. It was romantic, yes, laced with the drama of stolen glances during lectures and the emotional rawness of unpacking our pasts. But humanistic, too. We weren't rewriting the stars, we were just two women learning to orbit without collision. The betrayal that nearly undid us came not from Chad, but from within, from the fragile scaffolding of our identities. One frostbitten December morning, as we bundled against the Mistral winds for a market run to La Boqueria, Eleanor froze mid-step on our street. What if this is a phase, she blurted, voice barely above the vendor's calls. What if I'm just rebounding? Hurting you worse. Her words landed like sleet, stinging deep. We'd paused at a stall piled with persimmons, their orange skins a mockery of warmth. I set down the basket, forcing calm. A phase? After everything? The hurt flared, hot and accusatory. You think this, us, is some straight girl experiment? She recoiled, eyes wide with regret. No. God, Elena, that's not. But the damage rippled, echoing the pool's first plunge, panic, submersion, the desperate grasp for air. We argued all the way home, voices rising over the clatter of trams, me hurling accusations of denial, her countering with fears of losing her normal forever. I love you, she insisted, slamming the apartment door. But what if I can't? What if society wins? I stormed to the balcony, rain starting in earnest, blurring the city into impressionist smears. The conflict tore at me, drama in every slammed drawer, every averted gaze. Betrayal felt mutual, mine for pushing too hard, hers for doubting the very pulse between us. That night, she slept on the couch, a chasm wider than the Atlantic, and I cried into my pillow, the weight of potential loss crushing like undertow. The turning point came at the pool, inevitably. New Year's Eve loomed, the campus alive with pre-party buzz, but we were ghosts in our own lives. One last lesson, she texted while I was in class, a white flag in pixels. I went, heart armored but cracking. The water was heated now, steam rising like sighs, the deck empty save for us and the echo of distant fireworks tests. She waited in the deep end, silhouette ethereal against the floodlights. I can't lose you, she called as I approached the edge, voice carrying over the lap of waves. Not to my fears. Not to anything. I dove in, clean, fearless for the first time, surfacing inches from her. Then don't, I said, water beating on my lashes. Swim with me. For real. She closed the distance, hands framing my face, pulling me into a kiss that tasted of chlorine and absolution. Deeper this time, urgent, her legs wrapping around mine as we treaded together, bodies buoyant in more ways than one. It wasn't erotic frenzy, it was emotional catharsis, the drama of our fractures mending in slow, deliberate strokes. I'm all in, she whispered against my mouth. Scared shitless, but in. We surfaced laughing, splashing like kids, the betrayal dissolving in ripples. From there, the romance bloomed unchecked, picnics in Parc de la Ciutadella with stolen empanadas, her teaching me to surf off Barceloneta's waves, me wiping out spectacularly, her hauling me up with that unbreakable grin, me dragging her to underground queer art shows where we'd dance until dawn, bodies pressed in sweaty solidarity. But life, being the dramatic bastard it is, threw one final curve. Chad resurfaced in February, not with venom but vulnerability, a drunken email forwarded by a mutual friend. Heard you're happy. Good for you. Sorry I was a dick. Eleanor read it aloud over breakfast, her tone laced with pity rather than pain. Human, huh? Even assholes get redemption arcs. I snorted, buttering my pan-con tomate. Don't go soft on me. He's still got sand in his shoes. We clinked mugs, the moment a quiet victory, her growth, our resilience, a humanistic nod to forgiveness without forgetting. Spring unfurled in riotous color, cherry blossoms dusting the university quad like confetti from our private parade. The pool sessions turned celebratory, races down the lanes, she won, always, lazy floats under starlit skies where we'd whisper futures, grad school and Boston for her, maybe Portland for me, but together, somehow bridging the miles. The emotions ran deep, not in histrionic swells but steady rivers, her vulnerability when sharing family calls about bringing home a girl, my quiet pride in her coming out emails to old friends. The most memorable scene, the one that etched into my soul like acid on canvas, unfolded on graduation eve. The campus pool glowed under strings of lanterns, a farewell party for the study abroad cohort bubbling with laughter and bubbly. We'd slipped away, needing air from the crowd's prying eyes. Waist deep in the water, dresses hiked up like makeshift swimsuits, we faced each other as fireworks cracked overhead for the finale. You saved me, I said, tracing the freckles across her nose, the ones that mapped constellations only I knew. She smiled, that radiant, world-mending smile. Nah. You taught me to dive. Her hands settled on my waist, steady as ever, and in her eyes, those calm blue seas, I saw not just care, but commitment. The straight friend who'd guided me through terror had become my partner in every tide. We kissed as the sky bloomed, water lapping our promises, the city a symphony of endings and beginnings. Betrayal. It had forged us, sharpened our edges into something unbreakable. Conflict. The spice in our story, reminding us love wasn't passive but a daily act of courage. Back home, months later, I'd tell this tale over Seattle IPAs to skeptical friends, the girl, the pool, the realization that care transcends labels. Eleanor and I. We're making it work, her in Cambridge, me in a rainy studio, video dates and surprise visits keeping the spark alive. It's not fairy tale perfect, it's human, messy, profound, laced with the drama of distance and the romance of return. In the end, she didn't just guide me through water. She showed me how to swim in the depths of myself, straight lines be damned. And for that, I'd drown 1,000 times over.